Today we are lifting a first generation Boxster. I'm Justin.
And I am Aaron.
And this is Husman Bros. And today we, with help from our friends from Eurowise and
our cousins Rob and Tom,
we are going to put a 2-inch lift on this first gen Boxster.
So Justin, I've got a question.
Yes, sir.
Why are we putting a lift on this Boxster?
I've got an answer. Why not? Because our friends at Eurowise make this beautiful lift kit and we have a Boxster. Put those two together. Good time. So let's get started. As you see, Rob and Tom are already hard at work. Let's get right into it. Rob, it's always good to be here in the Rob Cave. So what is the order of operations? What are we doing today to lift the front of this car?
Yeah, it's really two steps or two phases. First, we're going to work on the front. So the front's fairly straightforward. There's just a few pieces that we have to move and remove. In other words, to get to the top of the strut. The strut mounts in under the frunk. That's a German slang for front trunk, so frunk. Once we have access to it, the whole shock assembly or strut assembly comes out pretty easily. We will then add the spacer and then reassemble it. It's not that difficult. Later on, we'll do the rear. That's a different subject because it's a bit more involved.
Yeah. Look for that video next.
Yeah,
Let's
absolutely.
get started, Rob. First, we got to take the wheel off, right?
First, we're going to take the wheels off. We're going to get it a little higher in the air so we can determine what tools we need to get to it. And then we'll go from there.
Excellent. And we'll put that tool list down below.
What makes a Boxster a good candidate for a safari lift?
Almost more than anything else, it's that they're cheap, right? You can pick up a first gen Boxster if you're okay with some cosmetic issues like this one. You know, we've got that torn up seat in there. You might be able to pick one up for between $5,000 and $7,000, or you can get a really nice one for around $12,000 to $15,000, and it's just fun. I mean, safari stuff is a good time. You know that as well as I do. And the effort to change it is really not, as you'll see from these videos, it's really not going to be that hard to do, and then you'll have something different. A lot of people sneer Boxsters as hairdressers' cars and things like that, but you know, we're going to turn it into a barber's car, a man's Boxster, and that's part of the reason, because it's just a fun thing to do. So
we talked about it a little bit in jest, but what makes a first-gen Boxster a good candidate for a safari build?
There's a couple things. First, they're cheap. You can pick up a first-gen Boxster. If you're okay with some cosmetic issues like this one has, you can get one for, $5,000 to $7,000. If you go higher, you can get a really nice one for, $10,000 to $12,000, and it's going to be a pretty simple process in the end.
So this is not a four-wheel drive car. Why would we bother to lift this to make a safari out of this?
Well, we're not going rock climbing with it, but what you can do is you can find some of those dirt roads that you might not want to find when this car is low. They're not all going to be rocky and terrible, but there are going to be dirt and gravel roads that you might be more inclined to take in on this. And also, because it's an inexpensive car, you might be more inclined to go ahead and do some of those things. And
the other thing is, you talk about a $10,000 to $12,000 Boxster.
Yeah.
If it were me, I'm probably not going to do all of this modification for a Boxster that I spent that much money on. But if somebody pulled up to one of our Porsche meets in a safaried out Boxster, even a $5,000 car, you're going to draw a lot of attention. People are going to think that it's pretty cool. They're going to want to take a look at it.
Absolutely. We're going to start wrenching. We'll talk more in a second.
I'm going to talk through the sequence of events of what we're going to remove so that we can get to the top of the strut. We're first going to remove the brake sensor here. This is pretty easy. It's a little clip. You can see I've already taken it out. It's then a 10 millimeter ratchet just to undo it. Take this bolt out. It should be pretty straightforward. This is just to get it out of the way. This is the brake wear and anti-lock brake sensor. This is the tie rod end. This connects to the steering rack. We're going to use a tie rod remover. We're going to remove this bolt. We're going to thread it slightly. Then we're going to attach the tie rod remover. So we're going to remove it. We're going to remove then the sway bar drop link, which is down here. We'll list all the tool sizes that we need. Once that's done, we will then loosen the bolt. This is the bolt right here. You can see it goes through. This keeps the strut in place, right? We're just going to loosen it. Then we're going to open the hood, remove the panel, and loosen these 3 bolts. At that point, the entire assembly will drop down. We'll be able to pivot it out a little bit, enough to be able to put the lift piece on top of it, and then it's reverse assembly. Should go pretty quickly. So we're just gonna figure out what sizes we need for these bolts here, and we'll get cracking. This is one of those things where sometime we'll be able to use our impact wrench and remove this bolt directly. However, there is a counter. There's a Allen head wrench in there, so we may need to move to a different type of tool. We'll explain that if we need it, but I'm gonna go ahead and hit it with this first. Okay, so this requires a 18 millimeter wrench. You can use, I just used a basic 18 millimeter wrench. You could use a deep socket if you want. As you can see, I left a little bit on the thread here. This will help us so that when we break the tie rod end loose, it doesn't go just like flying down and it stops. So that's why I left it like that. I call this a pickle fork, or ball joint remover. So what this does is that's why I left part of the nut on here.
Okay.
So that as we loosen this, it will allow this thing to pop down. So this
I see. So you're going to press that bolt.
Yeah, I'm going to press that piece through right there.
One of our challenges, we've still got the suspension loaded.
Yeah, I can
so
see.
as you
Okay.
see, Tom's got that. We're going to unload that suspension so we can get the final bolts out.
We need to unload the suspension so we can actually get the drop link off. So what we're going to do is we're actually going to lower the front suspension onto this 2x4 just a little bit to take the load off the drop link. The other way you could do this is actually use like a 4x4 and a floor jack to pick this up to unload the drop link.
Done.
Okay, as you can see, we did that and we were able to actually get this drop link off now. So as you can see, it was in this hole here, but when the suspension was loaded up, we had no room to get it out of there. So that's why we had to lift up the control arm so we could actually get it out of the sway bar hole.
We're going to now take, this is the bolt that holds the top of the drop link in for the sway bar link, as well as locks the strut into place. We're just going to loosen it. We're not going to completely take it out. We just want to start it. Then we're going to go up into the hood and we're going to remove the 3 bolts that hold the top of the strut into the body of the car. So that's next. Okay.
We have lowered the car down now, and we're going to remove these panels so we can get to these shock towers. Right, Rob?
Yeah, it's really easy.
Just right here?
So the battery piece just comes up like this. It's
Pressure.
held on by a couple of pressure tabs. There, we pull that out just like that. We're going to set that aside. Yep. There's Torx on both sides to remove these 2 panels. Once these come out, you can see it's just one thing holding them in.
Yep.
This is going to get, so the shock tower is literally right under my hand. T25, and I'm using a 1/4 inch drive for this T25. Anytime you're doing anything under the hood and you're removing these panels, on the passenger side, this is always a good time to check your airflow, the interior air filter. So this is the filter that filters the air. It's a carbon filter. This one actually looks pretty decent. I'm not going to jack with it because we don't have one, but the point is it's a good time to check it. What we see here are these 3 nuts. You'll see, if you look in here, you can see that there's actually more of a hole. See how I'm kind of pointing to that right there? This is where you adjust the camber on the car. This is part of your, so interestingly enough, they say you should go ahead and mark these. I gotta say, it doesn't matter. This car is going to be going in for a pretty massive, we're just going to try to get it, just, we can remember, it's pretty much adjusted probably all the way this way. We're going to go ahead and now loosen these, and then we should be able to drop the whole thing down.
Are we not going to remove them? We're just going to loosen them?
Just loosen them for now. We're just going to see if we get play.
Got it, okay.
Okay, so this looks like about a 13.
Okay.
So let's go ahead and grab that.
I'll say this as well. If you're doing this project and your car is as filthy as this one underneath these panels, I'd suggest you get out your Simple Green and give it a wipe down while you're here.
You can actually see when I loosen this, it's already shifted.
Yep.
Let's lift the car back up so we can kind of get underneath and catch.
What do you think the feasibility of doing this job in your backyard without a lift is?
I think if you've got floor jacks and you properly support the car, you can do it.
You think
but
so?
You need to get it high enough up in the air so that you can actually get in and do these things. But proper floor jacks, if you've got them extended where you can maybe lift the car another 6-8 inches in the air, you should be able to do this with hand tools. We're very lucky, of course, we've got a lift. It makes it so much easier. But this is doable with basically laying on the ground.
Excellent.
Okay, we're good. There we go. Let's get these screws on.
Pull.
I am. Okay.
There, that's out of the way.
Yeah, it's out of the way. Okay.
Needs to be over here somewhere.
Yes.
There. All right, you're close. There we go.
All right, so now the shock is back into the car.
Right.
It is just held in place right now, but we have attached this spacer to the top of the original shock tower These nuts come off of these bolts, and these are used to attach this to the top of the shock tower.
The original shock tower.
The original shock tower. In order to get this on top of the shock tower, you're going to have to pull the shock tower out from underneath the fender. I don't know how many arms you've got, but most people with 2 arms are not going to be able to do that on their own. So we had a couple of people, as you can see, prying it down to be able to pull the shock tower underneath the fender, place this on top of it, and get it secured to the top of the shock tower, and then fold it back underneath the shock tower to get it attached here. Before you get the shock tower in, as you're attaching this, remember you can rotate the top of that shock tower, which you need to do in the way you want it aligned so that you're not having to feel around in the dark. You want to align this to where it is facing the outboard side of the vehicle, and you want the arrows pointing forward and backward because it's going to go into the fender and be able to attach just like this underneath the body of the fender. So once you get it folded underneath there, you got those attached there, then you will have 2 inches worth of lift. At that point, start shopping knobbies because you got a lifted vehicle.
Absolutely.
Rob, what are we doing now?
So we're tightening the whole shock assembly up into the body. And so I've moved it a little bit by hand. I'm going to get these snug, and then we're going to give it kind of one final push to give it an eyeball alignment. What I'm doing right now is I'm using a 13 millimeter ratcheting socket just to get it snug, and a 4 millimeter Allen wrench so that it gives me a little bit of so I have something to kind of move against it. A lot of times when you see this kind of a scenario, if you try to tighten this down, the nut itself could spin. This just allows you to get it, make sure it's not spinning on you. This will be good enough to get it to an alignment shop where they will be able to do a proper alignment. This whole, it's an oblong opening, and it allows the shop to make adjustments this way. This helps to adjust the camber. So the whole assembly can move in or out depending upon how they need to adjust it. Eyeballing it, this is basically how it came out, so we're just going to leave it like that. So we did a couple things. We went ahead and removed this bolt here. This just does need to be loose so you can spin it out of the way, right? I don't think you need to take the sway bar drop link out. We also put the tie rod end back in and have it threaded hand tight as far as we can. We want a little bit of play in it because to get the half shaft drop link back in, we need to put tension on the whole assembly, suspension assembly again, so that we can thread it into the hole. So we're going to do that right now using our 2x4, which is going to help us to position it with the car.
There, perfect.
Okay, I think that's good. A lot of times when you remove a ball joint end, you can remove it just with a torque gun. However, putting it back on, it tends to need more, the bolt itself tends to need to be held in place. So it uses kind of a counter mechanism where I'm using an open, see how there's this open socket here, which allows me to put it on top of the bolt itself, and then you use this torque spit to hold it in place so you can spin this. So that's what we're going to do now.
So you're seeing what this looks like to put this Eurowise lift kit on this Boxster. Maybe you're watching this going, I don't care about a Boxster, I need to lift something that's a little bit more robust, but you do like Eurowise, you do like Porsches, you need to check out this video right here, which is going to walk through our entire project of how we lifted a Cayenne Turbo S using a lot of Eurowise parts.
Go check it out. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.